Hello, welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race NASCAR Cup Series Cookout at the Clash in Bowman Gray Stadium, the Madhouse, hosting the Cup Series for the first time since 1971. I'm Joe Sandiego. With me, we have Matthew Bro from Grid Network TV and Tanner Smith from PitBoxPress.com. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin Shell, Mark, Robert, David, and Matthew for investing in the Grid Network. Link in the video description to invest in us each and every month. Help us stay on the air. You can also do a YouTube super chat or buy me a coffee. We'll thank you on the air. Amber JJ leads the leaderboard. Encourage everyone to help support the Grid Network and get our team to the racetrack more frequent. One of the racetracks, of course, brand new for 2024, but for the first time since 1971 when it was in the Grand National Series. Of course, that evolved to be the Cup Series. They are hosting Bowman Gray Stadium, the NASCAR Cup Series. The Clash is here. And if anything, from what we saw yesterday, we're in for a show today because Heat 1 and 4 in the qualifying races saw plenty of beating and banging and cautions. We might be looking at that, especially in the Last Chance Qualifier. Several big names in this race, including Ryan Blaney. Now, of course, Ryan Blaney, he pretty much is in with that points provisional, unless he does something really foolish and just destroys his car and is out. He is going to be in. So that means you only got a couple other spots open for the top two finishers. And two phrases you got to be thinking of. Kyle Larson, who is in this race for the Last Chance Qualifier, after he got fallen back from contact, and Ty Gibbs, also in the Last Chance Qualifier. Now, for both of them, their teammates in Hendrick Motorsports or Joe Gibbs Racing are in the Clash. They're the only two out. Tanner, starting with you. This is a non-points event, of course, but how much pressure will there be on Kyle Larson and Ty Gibbs to participate in the Clash?
I would say that external pressure, there's probably very little from like their organizations, but I have to think as a, full-blooded racer, as both Ty Gibbs and Kyle Larson are, they will want to prove to themselves that they can make it in. So I definitely sense that there is a significant amount of internal pressure on both of them to make this exhibition race main event. But at the end of the day, I mean, Chris Buescher missed it literally all 3 seasons, and he won a race in all those years anyway. So it's not exactly a barometer on how your season's going to go, but everybody still wants to get their season off on the right foot, and I expect Gibbs and Larson to put their best foot forward today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that's like there is pressure, like Tanner would say, but at the same time, there's not, right? I mean, Larson and Ty Gibbs both last year combined for 22 top fives. Larson obviously had 6 wins. So there's a lot of pressure on them to do that, but at the same time, you look at past results, right? Last year, 2024, I believe Christopher Bell didn't even make it. It's in the Clash. And then obviously Chris Buescher as well. When you go back to 2023, Brad Keselowski missed it. Buescher missed it. 2022, Ross Chastain, who ended up finishing second in the championship standings, wasn't in the Clash. Alex Bowman, Kurt Busch didn't make it. So it's like, does it really matter? No, it doesn't. But I think there's a lot of pressure more on Kyle Larson than there is Ty Gibbs, because Ty Gibbs didn't make it his rookie year, and then he led like 84 laps last year in the Clash. So in terms of the style of race, I'm still going to say there's more pressure on Larson because, it's like he's not self-proclaimed, he didn't do it, but like people proclaim him as one of the best in the world. And if he can't even make the final exhibition race to start a season on a short track, the grassroots of where the sport is that he's in, it makes you wonder. So I guess we're going to find out. I'm quite excited, just mainly because I left a comment on the Gay Racing Podcast social media post, what's your wildest prediction? I know we talked about it, but I mentioned I think one of the guys who made the round 8 last year isn't going to make this, and I think it's going to be Kyle Larson's not going to make it, just because unless Blaney does what he did last year, has that heroic 23rd to 3rd, I believe it was, or maybe 2020, one of the years. It might have been 2022, I think it was. He started 23rd and finished 3rd. So we'll see what happens. But I think Blaney's going to kind of be lackadaisical to save his car. And then I think Larson's going to be out. So we'll see.
Larson's car at the start of practice yesterday, it looked good. We remember how he got around William Byron, was getting to the bottom of the corners. But then by that heat race, it just seemed once he got shuffled back, it was just not doing good at the center of the car. I'm really curious to see Cliff Daniels and all them. They got the talent, the mechanics to get that car better. Pretty sure they're probably already working with Chase Elliott's team, especially. Like, what setup do you have? Because we're in essentially a must win. Second place will get you in, but of course, you don't really want to leave it to second place if you're going to have third place right there, potentially using that bumper against, of course, several past winners in the Cup Series are in this Last Chance Qualifier. We also have two drivers that are Bowman Gray Stadiums in this race. Burt Myers, Tim Brown, two big Bowman Gray Stadium rivals, both of them in the Last Chance Qualifier. Tim Brown, first driver to have over 100 wins at this facility, and the two of them combined for over 10 championships each, 20 plus championships at Bowman Gray Stadium. Matthew, this is something where people are saying NASCAR's coming home after being in LA. This is going back to the roots. You have two drivers, essentially in the NASCAR grassroots program, weekly series in this. How exciting would it be if one of these two could get into the clash?
It would be like ecstatic, honestly. I mean, just it would be quite exciting for either Myers or Brown to really get into this race, because these are two historical figures in the modifieds. I believe it was like 198 combined wins and like 23 championships, like you were mentioning. That's a lot. Like, that reminds me of the good days in Rome, New York, Richie Evans and Jerry Cook, two of the best wheel and modified drivers in the history of the sport, battling. If one didn't win, the other one won. So that's what it reminds me of when you go back to Bowman Gray, go back to the roots about this. Just unfortunately, the excitement, I feel, is only going to last until the Last Chance Qualifier starts, because the equipment, I'm not going to bash the equipment they're in, but the Team Amerivet, the 50, and then is it Rick Ware in the 15 as well. Unfortunately, not the best qualifying, or the best equipment, I should say, but even the same with the efforts and the heat. I know God, one of them, I was watching two races at once last night. I apologize, but one of them got lapped by Hamlin at the end of heat.
It was Brown.
Brown, thank you, Tanner. So it's like, you worry. You'd love to see them put the car in leaping gear and go to work for the next, I think, 75 laps, get through everyone. Just unfortunately, I think the hype's going to be short-lived, but it's so exciting to hear them. They've been racing longer than I think Tanner and I even been on this planet. So it's pretty awesome to see them go at it here today. And I think it's great for marketing efforts as well. I always appreciate what NASCAR has done with marketing, and I think this is a big one here.
Yeah, just to tag off of what Matthew said, first of all, I think that them being in this event to begin with is a major accomplishment. Like, let's not, put ice on that, first and foremost. We have these guys that have been lifelong mod drivers and have dominated the, Bowman Gray Oval, and I just feel like them even making it into this event is a massive achievement in and of itself. But, add on top of that, them making it to the main event in what is, as Matthew pointed out, not exactly the best equipment, but that will blow the lid off the place, hypothetically speaking. So I just feel like if they can somehow manage to make this main event, that place will probably register on the Richter scale tonight, if I had to take a guess. But it is looking pretty unlikely, we'll say.
It would be, if that was to happen, especially as you both mentioned equipment, it would have to be like the craziest Last Chance Qualifier, just filled with cautions, some of the best drivers getting out, a little bit of racing luck. That would be something. It would be huge if those two got in. But I just think the cards are stacked against them. Love to see it, but it just, unless we had the craziest race of all time for a Last Chance Qualifier, it's going to be really hard on the cars. As we mentioned, 3 spots on the line. Essentially, Blaney has one locked with the points provisional. And then you got the top 2 qualifiers finishers. Top qualifier that's going to be on the pole for the Clash, Chase Elliott. Now, Chase Elliott, this has to feel pretty good starting off 2025. It's one of the fastest last year, 7th in the final championship standings. One win back at Texas Motor Speedway in April, so quite a long time before he got a win. 2025, of course, we're going to see what happens. Again, this is a non-points event, but Tanner, would a win tonight give Chase that positive momentum and hype for NASCAR? Because after all, he's the most popular driver, biggest race of the year. If he was to get a win, I feel there'll be a lot of people thinking Chase for the 500.
I definitely think that there will be people that will think that, but they're obviously entirely different facilities. But I definitely think that a win in itself would absolutely propel the Chase Elliott hype for champion again this season, as well as potentially for the Daytona 500. I mean, in sports, momentum is made into a very big thing, and whether you subscribe to it or not, it does seem to galvanize a fan base, galvanize a team, and propel them forward. And winning even in an exhibition event can be extremely fruitful to your overall campaign. I mean, look at Joey Logano last year. He went and ran 800 laps at North Wilkesboro in a tire test, dominated that race. It was his first win of 2024. And then obviously he was able to rebound from an awful, horrible start to the season to bounce into the championship round and end up winning the whole thing. So I think that as far as will this be any sort of real indication as far as to how well he'll be able to contend for a championship and race week to week? Probably not. But let's not think realistically. Any win is helpful for your campaign, and this one would definitely be something that would rally the Dig fan base up.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, like, same thing as Tanner was saying. They're different facilities, stuff like that, but any type of win. That's why you see a lot of guys at the Cup Series level go down the trucks, go down to Xfinity, get one. Even late model drivers, maybe they go down to the Legend cars. Maybe they can't really go to Bandoleros, but they go and they build that confidence back up by getting a win. I think if Chase Elliott were to win tonight, I think it definitely would give hype, considering, he's always going to be the most popular driver, no matter what, even though he got suspended and was out 6 races with an injury, still won it the year before, and then obviously won it again. I mean, he's great. He's a fan favorite. Everyone loves him. Obviously, everyone loved his father as well. I think it will build up the hype, and I'm going to explain why if he can get it done. I mean, you look at the past 3 Clash winners when you look at the type of facility. So not even going back to Daytona on the road course, which I believe Chase almost won. Yeah, because then him and Blaney, I remember. But you look at Hamlin last year, Clash winner. He came out, started hot, won 3 races. You can look at Truex 2023. Started out hot, won 3 races. Then you look at Joey Logano in 2022. Started out hot, won 4 races, including the championship race and the championship. So I think whoever wins this race specifically will have a lot of momentum, but whoever wins, I'm not going to bank them on winning the Daytona 500. But Chase Elliott's one of those guys I feel on super speedways, we don't give him enough credit for how good he really is at them.
Yeah, the hype, that could be something huge because we know for NASCAR, if they had that hype of their most popular driver, the fan base of Chase Elliott, oh, he won at Bowman Gray Stadium. The Daytona 500 is next because we got this in between week with this big football game in between. And then, of course, the Daytona 500, the big race of the 2025 NASCAR Cup season. That will just be monumental, I think, for those Chase Elliott fan base. And for NASCAR, just to try to get more viewers, just to see, can he do it? But we haven't seen the Daytona 500 winner win the Clash before in quite some time. I was thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't look this up, but I think it might have been Dale Jarrett the last one in the 2004. So, but unless I'm missing somebody, it has been quite a long time for the Clash winner to win the Daytona 500 in the same year. But other than that, of course, we encourage everyone in the chat room to go ahead and comment. And actually, just looking at Denny Hamlin, 2016, last person to win the Clash and the Daytona 500. Of course, Denny Hamlin, we're talking super speedways, very different beast compared to Bowman Gray Stadium, which is another beast of its own. Let's start. All three Trackhouse drivers are in the Clash. Who finishes the highest?
So for lightning round, I'm going to do a quick Chase Elliott Ford sponsor, Baja Glass Zero. Give me Shane Van Gisbergen to be the highest. Starting in 10th, I think, despite the track, I think we're broadcasting.
Yeah, I would say that I mean, obviously, SVG is highest up here in the running order as far as the Trackhouse drivers are concerned, it looks like. And I think passing is going to be really hard to come by tonight. So I would say that if Shane is willing to get his fenders a little ruffled up, I would imagine he's going to move through the field. I'd say look for him to maybe even get a top 5 if he doesn't get dumped. But if he gets shuffled out of the way, I would say probably Ross. He has a more defined history of short track success, whereas Suarez at Martinsville and other similarly flat tracks doesn't really perform as well. So yeah, SVG, unless there is insane circumstances.
I'm thinking the insane circumstances. I'm going to go with Ross Chastain to be the highest finisher. Kyle Busch, think about circumstances. He's essentially the big story of survival after a physical race to get in the Clash. Tanner, will he be just as physical tonight?
I would expect nothing less of a man with the name of Rowdy Busch to, get his elbows out, get a little dirty. So, yeah, I don't really know what was in the air last night in Heat 1. It was a knockdown, drag-out battle from the beginning. And Kyle Busch had to fight through a lot of adversity, and Justin Haley mostly, to make it into the main event tonight. And I would imagine that he's definitely going to, give it back if it's given to him tonight. And it's probably going to be given back at the rate that Ryan Preece gave it back to John Hunter last night.
I wonder, because obviously last time we had an exhibition race and Kyle Busch got physical, he got punched in the face. So I think he'll still be physical. Maybe not with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but I think he'd still be physical. He has to. You got to come in when you're arguably the greatest driver in the history of motorsport and NASCAR specifically. You got to come out. He's been great with the Clash the last couple of years. Ends a historic streak where he didn't win for I think it was 19 or 20 years in a row, finally didn't get a win. He's got to come out physical, and it shouldn't matter to him. He's been doing like I'm trying to think like he was at the Chili Bowl, stuff like that. He's been doing the lower series. He's going to probably win a couple truck races this year. I think Kyle Busch is ready for it, and I think we're going to see a little bit of Rowdy tonight.
I'm predicting we're going to see a little bit more Rowdy tonight as well too. He tries to keep his nose clean, but then trouble seems to find him. And I think he's tired of it. After a winless season, he wants to prove everyone wrong, get a win. Carson Hocevar is in the Clash. Matthew, starting with you, can he finish in the top 5?
I think he absolutely can. I really do, because Carson Hocevar is really coming into his own as a driver. Last year, he didn't make it, unfortunately, into the Clash. But this year, I know he's starting 15th. And like Tanner said earlier in the show, it's going to be hard to pass here. But Hocevar is one of those guys, too. He will hit anything to move it out of the way and get it done. You see that in the trucks. We've seen it in Cup his rookie year. I think he can be a shocker to get up to the top 5.
I don't think it would be too much of a shock if he made it up there. I mean, his car in practice and qualifying was relatively strong, and it looked like he was able to really, wrap the bottom and make it around the corner pretty quickly. So I think he's got a fast enough car. It's just the, Carson Hocevar paradox of, I am going to drive as hard as possible. Well, sometimes you end up driving yourself insane doing so. You just got to hope he can keep his head screwed on tonight and hope that he can just power through any aggression he may feel, because he has definitely had an aggression problem these past couple of years that has been addressed at multiple occasions. So I have confidence that he will have a fast car and he can move forward. It's just he's got to keep it together. He's just got to have the mental fortitude to make it through the night. So he's definitely got the car to make it into the top 5. It's all about the mental toughness tonight.
Well said by both of you. I 100% agree. Now his teammates inspire during the last chance qualifier. So Tanner, starting with you, will McDowell or Haley make it into the clash?
Well, McDowell is 4th, but I did not see a whole lot out of his car last night that gives me confidence that he is going to be able to wheel it into the top 2. As for Justin Haley, he might use that front fender to plow his way into the lead. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but if I had to make a prediction, I don't think either of them are going to make it. But if I had to pick one between the two, it would definitely be Haley. I mean, he's got Rodney Childers on the box engineering that car. I have to imagine it's going to be quick.
And before I agree with exactly what Tanner said, I want to shout out Scott Lynch in the comments, one of the best historically in this motorsport industry for you guys who don't know. So really appreciate him for tuning in. Knows a lot about the sport. So he said go Carson, which is pretty cool. But yeah, just to take back a couple steps, Tanner, yeah, absolutely. I don't think either of them make it in. I think they are two really aggressive drivers. McDowell is one of the he's a fighter. Remember with Suarez many moons ago, it feels like, when him and Suarez got into it. And like Adam says, Michael McDowell can make it in. I think he can too, especially track position being 4th. I believe he was a last chance qualifier one of the past 3 seasons. But if I'm Justin Haley, I'm going to plow through everyone. I have something to prove. I haven't been one to build into the Justin Haley hype. I know a lot of people have been saying he's the next this. I know RFK had the Alliance. I remember he posted the name tag. Like, a lot of the drivers in this industry buy into Justin Haley. So I think with Rodney Childers, I think with the 7 crew, he can get it done. Plus the way the clashes have gone for him. Kyle Larson destroying him when he was with Colleague Racing, if you remember, a few years ago. And then I believe it was last year in the Walmart car, just not any luck at all, finishing like 21st. So it's tough. Do I think any of them will make it, or either of them? No, I do not. But I think they'll make it close, to be honest with you.
I'm thinking, unless we have the Mayhem race of all-time proportions, I don't see any of them making it. It'll be just Carson Hocevar. Denny Hamlin, the defending champion of the Clash, looking to win his 5th Clash. Does he make that happen tonight, Matthew?
I think he can. I mean, it's Denny Hamlin, right? At the end of the day, he needs to have a chip on his shoulder. You saw the comment he made about Daytona and the All-Star provisional thing with like drivers from other sports. How he made the comment like NASCAR's desperate for attention. Denny Hamlin's not happy with this sport, and I wouldn't be too if I was in his shoes either. So if you're looking to someone to prove, if you want a driver to go out there and prove something besides a championship, I really think it's Denny Hamlin. I think he's really one of the best all-time, if not the best all-time, without a championship in this sport. So would I be surprised if he wins for the 2nd consecutive year? No, I would not be at all. I think he can do it.
He seemed to have a plenty fast enough car last night. So, I mean, it's similar to Hocevar. It looks like he's got the piece to get the job done. It's just, keeping his head on straight. Obviously, Hamlin has a lot more experience keeping his head on straight and winning these events. So I definitely think that he may have to, get into the back of an old foe of his and chase Elliott to get there, because I don't know if anybody's catching him if he gets out to a lead tonight. His car looks so fast, the 9 car does. So it'll definitely take, moving somebody out of the way more than likely to get to the win. But Denny Hamlin is not shy enough about doing that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him give somebody the old chrome horn and, move on. So I definitely think he's got a very high probability of winning tonight.
It's the Madhouse, we seen Denny Hamlin before lose his cool. Martinsville, after Bowman won that race, we could see anything tonight, I feel. Devin, McDowell, and Gibbs have to deal with it. They are going to have a very competitive last chance qualifier and a tough mid pack. Good luck, the Dillon brothers, both of the Dillon brothers, of course, in that race. Surprise, Ty Dillon starting up front for that event. But of course, it all comes down to everything that happened last night. Now, of course, Denny Hamlin trying to get his 5th Clash, all-time leader. Dale Earnhardt Sr. won the Clash 6 times, but all at Daytona Super Speedway. Hamlin leads all active drivers with Clash wins. We have 5 past winners of the Clash in this field. The one driver that has won the Clash, but is in the last chance qualifier, Eric Jones. And the Clash, a lot of history. But tonight, of course, the big historical note, Bowman Gray Stadium has not seen the Cup Series since 1971. First time it's not in Daytona or the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, and of course the LA Coliseum hosted the last 3 Clash events on a temporary racetrack they had to build from the ground up annually for each 3 years. The size, a bit similar to Bowman Gray Stadium, but we're seeing, I feel, a big difference in the track product so far from last night. The character of the track, the bumps, even the storm drain. You just know you can't go too far low. You're going to hit that storm drain. That's just going to mess up your car. The unique wall, how it just comes out right on the track in turn 4, making it pretty narrow. And the track action yesterday, I think this was the kind of track action we anticipated in LA. Much more beating and banging, racing. I got to say, with LA, we know what happens when you repave a track. And they're essentially paving a track every year. So always you had that disadvantage. Tanner, so far, is the track product living up to the hype? Or should we wait and see how the Clash goes tonight?
So I'm definitely more in the wait and see camp because we saw 2 heats last night go completely caution free and, be pretty much run of the mill, where it, almost felt like everybody was just following the next car on the train. And we had the other 2 that were absolutely chaotic, had a lot of tempers flaring in them, saw a lot of carnage. So I definitely think that knowing what you can get away with in a 25-lap event with 10 cars on the track is definitely going to, bleed itself into this 75-lap LCQ event and, subsequently our main tonight. I think that Clint mentioned something last night about how the track itself is a little bit more rounded in the corners than the LA Memorial track was, which I totally agree with. And I think that makes the track a little bit easier to navigate and not just park your car on the apex and, drop a gear down and get out of the corner. But at the end of the day, I think that the racing product it's still a short track in the next gen car. It's not exactly like as good as I feel like it could be. One thing I was hoping they would ask the drivers last night post race was, hey, was dirty air apparent in any way to you? Which obviously we never heard anything about. So I just have to, kind of assume that because most of the top 5 in those cleaner heats were able to just get away from 6th on back, that when the pack is a little bit more populated and packed in together, that we'll see a little bit more beating and banging, a little bit more contact. And honestly, as long as the whole race doesn't look like the first 8 laps of last night's first heat, I think we'll have a good show. But I'm definitely, leaning more towards I'm going to have to wait and see. Just, there's going to be a lot of laps run tonight.
No, I definitely agree with that. I'm in the same boat. I've been openly not a fan of bringing the Clash to Bowman Gray. Just something when you walk into Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the atmosphere changes. It's almost like anger, aggression, fighting. It's like that's what I think this track's been historically known for, especially in the late model ranks. And to bring the Cup Series here. It's great marketing historically, but at the same time, if you're NASCAR, do you want to move forward like you tried to do with LA, or do you want to move backwards, going back to your roots? I feel like it's clashing, no pun intended, really. But I think we're gonna have to wait and see. And you saw yesterday. I mean, speaking of the wall, I mean, ask Cole Custer and AJ Allmendinger how they felt about that wall going into that corner. Same with John Hunter Nemechek. Other guys that got totaled pretty much. I think we have to wait because I think we all felt the same way about LA. It's like, oh, this team's good. And then all 20 whatever cars get on the track at once. And you're like, oh, maybe there's not a lot you can do. So I think whoever saves their brakes the most by using the car in front of them as their brakes are probably going to be the best bet here. That's what I hate with short track package with this car specifically. You can hit a lot more than you could ever before. It's just, do we really want to see that? But I guess it's good that this is the exhibition race. But I would have loved to see like a Rockingham or maybe like a 3/4 of a mile to a mile as the clash to start it off. But hey, I don't make the decision. But I think we're going to have to wait to see how it goes. And then whether it's tomorrow night, whenever we discuss the recap, I think we'll have a lot to say about how this race turns out.
I'm really curious to see how the race will turn out because, like you said, the track product seems to be so far delivering, but we're going to have more cars there. Will it be just a repeat of caution after caution? Because as you said, the beating and banging, Kyle Busch bumped by Josh Berry, gets into Justin Haley. That's the big spin. We saw that a lot of times in LA. I love the idea of maybe Rockingham hosting the Clash. I know originally I was hoping NASCAR would go more the direction of, okay, LA, then another market where we don't see NASCAR racing, but sort of hard, especially with stadiums, unless it's built for track and field like the Coliseum, a football stadium standalone will be really tight. Bowman Gray, we'll see what happens. I think it'll be really interesting to see the direction of the Clash. Tonight will be that first step. Let's give it a second year and a third year, I think, fairly, because we saw with LA how that first year, great turnout. Second year, good turnout. I think the hype sort of started wearing off a little. And the third year, just a disastrous rain made everything very messy. And of course, other short tracks I may want to host. Can you imagine short track just having the opportunity? Hey, NASCAR will come in, do some upgrades, host you. I know Kevin Harvick might have a say with that. Kearns County, that could be a pretty good. Awesome. In the California area as well, too. I'm always going to be biased. Portland International Raceway, we have the Xfinity Series. It's not too cold. I mean, it's 40 degrees tonight, but thankfully no chance of rain. About the same here. Also got to say, too, I think with the Clash at Winston-Salem, we're still thinking of everyone in Los Angeles. I just think that now would not be a good time if they were at LA, thinking of everyone at LA. And Devin says they should just outright make the Rock a points race. Rockingham, points. Of course, they're going to be having racing later this year. Not the Cup Series, but still, it'll be interesting. Other than that, Tanner, what else do you have to say about the Clash? Some crazy ideas for future tracks?
Yes, so I'm glad that Matthew brought up Rockingham, which I agree with the commenter that I think that the Rock should be a points race. It is a fantastic circuit, and in my opinion, one of the best that we have in North America. But I think that part of the LA Clash was, taking the Cup Series platform to a market that previously didn't have a whole lot of access to it. And with the Rock as an inspiration, I think we should go down under for the Clash. I think that the Calder Park Thunderdome would actually be a phenomenal venue for the NASCAR Cup Series. Obviously, they would have to, get safer barriers over there and, obviously modernize that track a bit. But I would love to see that oval get revitalized. It is basically Rockingham banking in the turns and, the distance of the track layout, but its front stretch is built out more like Charlotte. So it's more of a double dog leg situation. So I definitely think that would be a really cool idea going forward, but I tend to agree with Joe. I think that BGS needs a couple more seasons to, really help breathe some life again into Bowman Gray from the outside. Obviously it's got a very big, insular community that, around Winston-Salem and throughout North Carolina is a really big show every weekend. But I think that, giving it a little bit more outside attention could definitely be very helpful for its long-term viability as a track.
The Thunderdome in Australia, it hosted, I believe, in 1992, the last exhibition race with NASCAR there. That'll be really phenomenal. And especially now, he's from New Zealand, Shane Van Gisbergen, a big draw. If you could get some other, heck, you got Penske and Scott McLaughlin, another New Zealander, but those two big supercar talent. Will Power. We've seen some Australian supercar drivers come here to the United States to do NASCAR again. So a lot going on. So one of the big things, of course, anytime you have the Cup Series coming, a lot of star power, including the champion and the defending champion of the series, Joey Logano. Now, he has this pattern of winning at racetracks that are brand new. He did it in Los Angeles, first time we went there. Gateway, he did it. He just seems to have this talent of doing that. He will be starting in the Clash, 7th place. So pretty far up there in the front. I think he'll love to prove a point for all those people doubting the legibility of his championship, legitimacy of that championship with his mediocre season. And he will love to break this odd pattern of having no championship 4 appearances on the odd number years. Of course, 2025. Joey Logano, I think that pattern is going to continue. He's not going to make the championship 4. But Matthew, starting with you, do you see Logano on your short list of potential winners tonight?
Yes, because I just have to stop doubting him. All last year, I think even in our prediction show, which I recommend everyone tuning in, we had Jonathan as well in with that one. So make sure you go to Grid Network on YouTube, TV, wherever it is, find it. You'll love our predictions. But one of them I said is Logano's barely going to make the playoffs. If he does, it's not going to be by winning. But I always eat crow when it comes to Joey Logano. Didn't mean the rhyme there, but he's that guy. Whether we would go here, he'll probably win. We go to the LA Coliseum Gateway. If they did go to Kevin Harvick's Kern County Raceway, even though he's not from California, he'd still somehow win it because that's Joey Logano's just one of those guys. He's really got it in him. So I wouldn't be surprised. He would be on the short list because he doesn't really have far to go, if I'm not mistaken today. I can't really read to 7th. Yeah, so you already said that, Joe. I apologize. But it's coming from 7th, so it's like he can do it. It's Joey Logano. And now that I say that, he's going to have a bad day. Joey Logano is an interesting guy. He really is.
Yes, Joey Logano is a very interesting character, and I definitely have him on my short list of drivers to win tonight. Let's look at the 3 drivers ahead of him on the bottom row. We got Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Elliott. He has had beef with all 3 of those guys. So he can find a reason internally to justify moving any of them. So I really don't see any inhibitions in Joey Logano to make it up to the front if he really wants to. As far as his 2025 season, like I mentioned in our season preview that Matthew so delightfully mentioned, I predicted that Joey Logano is going to have the world's largest chip on his shoulder coming into this season, and coming out of nowhere with a Clash win to back up that championship would be an absolute exclamation point on that prediction that I made. So I definitely think that on the 10th year anniversary of that Sterling 2015 season that he had, that was unfortunately stopped by Matt Kenseth, I think that Joey is going to go out there and really put his best foot forward and try to win this race as much as he possibly can.
He'll love to do that, claim the Bobby Allison Memorial Trophy, which will go to the winner of the Clash this year. And I got to say, for folks, check out NASCAR's YouTube channel. That documentary they put on Bowman Gray Stadium and the story of Bobby Allison finally being recognized for his 85th win. Sadly, passed away 2 weeks later. What a story. I think a lot of folks will be thinking about that story as well tonight. Now, we've mentioned Roush Fenway Keselowski racing a couple times, and I gotta say, they have to be feeling really pleased with how everything's going because that team struggled in LA. Not making the clash, just no luck. They came here, all 3 cars in the clash, but Brian Preece had to get very physical. He was on the outside 3 wide. He somehow made that work. John Hunter Nemechek bumps him out of the way. Then, next thing you know, Ryan Preece sends it really hard, just punting Nemechek into the outside wall. We talked on Roundtable, our 2025 predictions, about the potential pressure to perform for Ryan Preece. He's going to have great equipment. He's had these years with JTG, then Stewart Haas Racing, which they were on the decline, not showing much of anything. Tanner, starting with you, were you surprised by the move from Ryan Preece to just punt John Hunter Nemechek into the wall? And could he be a bit more aggressive in delivering results?
So I want to start off with a couple of things. Ryan Preece has had a bit of a hot streak in him. It's just not really shown up on the racetrack too much. I mean, if you hearken back to, I want to say it was the 2021 or it was 2022, it was the Charlotte truck race where Carson Hocevar and him tangled on the overtime restart after Hocevar dominated the night on the way to what was going to be his first win, and then ultimately that ended up happening. And, Ryan Preece gave that viral, response after the race, talking about how that's not how young drivers race, et cetera, et cetera. So I think as far as, the way he goes about this, we've seen it before just in other ways. A couple of other things, though. Ryan Preece and John Hunter Nemechek definitely drove around each other a good bit last year, so I tend to say that maybe we don't know the whole story between these two at this point. Maybe there was a little bit of, I owed him one already going on, and, getting hit a second time is only going to exacerbate any problems that you may have had with somebody. So I am going to lean towards we don't know the whole story here between Preece and Nemechek, but I don't think the move was overly aggressive. I think that it was definitely a robust move. I wouldn't have done it, but I think Ryan Preece wouldn't have done that move if he wasn't ready to live with the consequences of getting on John Hunter Nemechek's bad side. So it'll all be determined on whether he accepts any sort of retribution for it from John Hunter in the future. I think that Preece, having not really accomplished much in his Cup career, could stand to be more aggressive on the track more often, but I also think that he wants to be viewed as a clean driver. So that kind of mentality kind of bucks against that. So I don't know. I think that he could stand to be more aggressive, but it all depends on how he wants to be viewed as a driver in some aspects. So it'll be all up to him to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree. It's funny. I think John Hunter Nemechek and Ryan Preece are 2 drivers that come to mind when you think could potentially be on the hot seat with their Cup careers in terms of how they perform this year, especially. I think they're really similar, to be honest with you. I think Nemechek's had more success, obviously, but when you look at their truck careers, I mean, Nemechek, great in trucks, great in Xfinity, comes up the Cup a little too early, then goes back down, comes back up again, hasn't done much. Preece wins in trucks, wins in Xfinity, comes up the Cup, hasn't done anything either. So it's like, it doesn't shock me how aggressive they are. And I think Ryan Preece probably a little bit mad about previously in the race with his Bobby Labonte tangle up in the modified race there. But this is literally Ryan Preece haven. Like, we talk about the great modified drivers, obviously Myers, obviously Brown. Ryan Preece could start to be in that conversation too. I mean, he really is a talented modified driver. And this Bowman Gray, I mean, it's just the atmosphere. I surprised how aggressive it was. I mean, he did I think he yeeted him just out of the way, but at the same time, he probably had it coming. And I don't think Nemechek's going to try to pick a fight with Ryan Preece, but it wouldn't shock me if they're fisticuffs. And I think that's type of the atmosphere you put us in when you have a track like this. Is it's high tension. Everyone's not going to like the way anyone else races them. And I don't know who's going to fight, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a fight. I don't think it's going to be those two, though. But, yeah, you got to be more aggressive. Those two both are out there to prove something. So if you got to move someone out of the way, you got to move someone out of the way, because you never know if it's going to be the last season that you get to move someone out of the way at the top level.
See, it's funny you say that, because I actually think John Hunter could stand to be less aggressive. He does not pick his spots very well, and that's exactly how he ended up in the situation he found himself in last night. So, I mean, we're talking about the driver who crashed the most last season. It's kind of like Ricky Stenhouse syndrome. Like, you can't just be over aggressive all the time and expect it to work out. So, if it were me and I was Jimmy Johnson, I would be having a talk with John Hunter going into this year and being like, okay, I just need you to bring the car home clean, please. Just a couple weeks, bring it home clean.
Yeah, John Hunter Nemechek, I know last year in the round table, I predicted he would get one race win because I was thinking super speedway, but just not the season at all. And of course, in the chat room, Devin asked, John Hunter Nemechek fought Noah Gragson in Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that Custer?
It's Custer.
That was Custer and Nemechek, correct? The Truck Series finish at Most Park, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So
Dang,
that was a finish.
A fight. Now I think about it. How many fights Gragson? I mean, Hemrick, Cole Custer, or not Custer. It was
Harrison Burton.
Holy Noah Gragson, put the boxing
gloves.
Noah had a run in after that Most Sport race in 2018 with Todd Gilliland, his teammate, because he cleaned him out in the final corner and wrecked both of them, which not one of Noah's best moves, we'll say.
He can fight though. Gragson's a Vegas boy. I think
he's gotten washed in every fight he's been in, unfortunately.
We'll see tonight when he fights someone what's going to happen. But no, I like Greg. I think he's a great racer. He's come a long way, but sometimes you got to have that chip on your shoulder, that fightness, and I think Gragson brings that to the sport.
Yeah, Gragson been around the block, and of course, the race tonight, it is 200 laps. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it is caution flags do not count or was that just for last night? So, but yeah, only green flag lap will count in the event. Must finish under green flag conditions. That is from NASCAR.com. So green flag only laps, and then of course the scheduled start time 6 p.m. Eastern. Last Chance Qualifier on Fox, MRN, Sirius XM Radio, and then 8 p.m. Eastern. The Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. Of course, Fox will have NASCAR pre-race show between the Last Chance Qualifier and the Cookout at the Clash this year. And one of the things we've been talking a lot about, the teams in there, I'm very excited for this race. I think it's going to be pretty exciting to see what happens. We have an Austin Dillon fan here, go AD3. So with that said, I think it's just a perfect lead up to everyone's favorite game, and sometimes the hardest game, pick a winner. We encourage everyone in the chat room, share, comment. Who do you think is going to win the NASCAR Cup Series Cookout at the Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium? Get your name on the leaderboard. Of course, this is throughout 2025. We have over 200 races still across the grid ranking. We've had Formula E. We had IMSA, which is part of the Green Endurance Performance Index. So it's still very early to catch up to Matt White, who leads, Alex Fleener from Twitter, Kobe, the 3-time champion. So third, Joshua Birch and Adam Lemeries, who been commenting in YouTube. Now, Matthew Bro, you are the defending champion. One of the things we forgot to give you is your traditional 15 seconds to give us championship speech. So before we do that, Matthew, I'll put you on the spot for a 15-second pick a winner's championship speech.
Perfect. I want to thank for dethroning Kobe. That was pretty awesome. I've been here 2 years. It's been very fun to be able to pick, and I beat everyone by a lot last year. I really kicked some butt, but now I'm getting my butt kicked, as you can see there. So I want to thank Formula E, especially guys like Nick Cassidy helped me out a lot. SVG a couple of years ago, So just want to thank all the guys who got it done, especially for myself. And right now up there, as you can see, I'm not there yet, but I will be very soon.
Time for pick a winner in the chat room already. We got some folks. Chase Elliott from Adam. We got Chase Elliott from Scott. Kobe is going with Chase Briscoe. So overall, let's throw it to you, Tanner, for pick a winner to try to get on the leaderboard. Who do you see winning the Cookout Clash?
I am going to go a little bit outside the box, and I'm going to pick Ryan Blaney. I think that he is going to survive the chaos of both the LCQ, which will make him stronger for the main event, where he will finally complete the last to first challenge that eluded him a couple of years ago. I see a driver that absolutely dominates people at these smaller flat tracks, and I just can't imagine him not being in the mix for this win despite his low starting position. I think that given it's an exhibition race and he will operate under the assumption that everyone's going to take it not as seriously, he is going to annihilate the competition and drive all the way through the field and the carnage and win tonight's race. I think that Chase Elliott, though, is a very fine pick for our commenter, so can't blame anybody for going with the pole sitter.
Matthew, who is your pick a winner?
It's tough. I'm going to be advised, never be cocky. However, just like last year when I beat everyone's favorite Grid Network TV host, who's that remind you of? This guy right here, number 11, Denny Hamlin, who beat all your favorite a few years ago. I think he'll be able to get it done again. I think he comes in with a big Dorito chip right here on his shoulder. Hopefully they sponsor him. I know he's looking for sponsors. I think Denny Hamlin can get it done. And by the way, I am not that cocky. That was just a joke for views or whatever engagement you can call it. Don't ever look at me like that. Kobe obviously has beat us all multiple times. I'm not in that realm yet. I only got one. So I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin, though, for tonight.
Interesting picks. I'm going to throw an interesting one. I think it's going to be seen as a huge underdog win. But I think this driver has proven to me, especially last night, they've matured, they've learned, they got spun, they went to the back, they went 3 wide on the outside, past 6 cars. I'm going with the number 4. I'm going with Noah Gragson to win the Cookout Clash with his first race, Front Row Motorsports, and that number 4 Ford. That'll be a big underdog win, but I think he has the potential to do this. So Noah Gragson is my pick. In the chat room, we got Robbie for pick a winner. They're going with Austin Dillon. That is a bold pick.
You can do it.
He's got to make it to the main show, doesn't he?
Got to make it to the main show.
But Blaney's automatically in technically, but
that was why it was a slam dunk pick.
Chase Briscoe pick for Kobe. So Kobe trying to tie Matt White. And of course, as I mentioned, Scott has gone with Chase Elliott along with Adam, and giving a shout out, Robbie, to Matthew as well, the king. So overall, we encourage everyone, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss pick a winner, because as I mentioned, there's over 200 races still to go across the grid ranking, the Endurance Performance Index. Plenty of time to catch up to Matt White or whoever's leading. Pick a winner. And of course, we want to give a big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin, Deshelle, Mark, Robert, David, and Matthew. Get your name on the list. Link in the video description. 1 monthly contribution each and every month. Help us stay on the air, get to more tracks. Last year, we visited more tracks with Thermal Club, Portland. We had Jackson over at Long Beach. Ben Schneider got to the track. We want to get more members of our team to the track and more tracks this year. So invest in the grid. You can also do one time through YouTube, Super Chat, or buy me a coffee. with that said, we are just all out of time right here for Green Life pre-race. And Devin, great picks. Leaning towards Denny. So Denny Hamlin trying to beat everyone's favorite driver again. We'll see what happens, and we encourage everyone to subscribe because we will have a post-race show to wrap up tomorrow. For Tanner Smith and Matthew Bro, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching today's pro. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races.